this is what God's been doing in me the last 10 years to say the picture that I have in my own mind of who I am and my limitations or the things that I feel like are weaknesses or I'm not good at that. Oh, I'm not good at that. It's not true. It's lies. It's Romans 12:1 and 2, how we present our bodies a living sacrifice and we ask him to renew our minds so that we can know his will and do it.
Welcome back to the Journey with the Giant podcast. I'm Robert Prince, and today's episode is a special one. Lori and I are taking a few minutes to celebrate something we've been working toward and praying about for a long time. And Lori's been working toward it for much longer than I have. But that is the official launch of Journey with the Giant out into the world. Last Tuesday, Lori hosted her first book launch event, and it was an incredible night. Over 60 people gathered, and it ended up being the biggest launch of the year for Baker Bookhouse. So today, exactly 1 week later, we're looking back, giving thanks, and reflecting on what God has already done, not only through this book, but also inside of us during this journey. Lori, it's been 1 week. How are you feeling now that this book is officially out in the world?
So many things. Incredibly happy. A week ago we were looking at the books coming out. We're having this event. So there's a huge sense of relief. As in, what's it going to turn out like? Is it going to go like I hoped? Who's going to come? All the components that were still in front of us. People flying in like you and Rebecca trying to get you in on time or in it all. So I feel a lot of joy, and there's a sense of fulfillment and a sense of like, I can't believe this is true. It really happened. And, how can you ever put that into words? How can you put 5 years ago when you thought this might happen someday into words that it actually has? Yeah. And I mean, when we met and then you joined one of the Journey with the Giant groups, that group was with me that following year when I went through that publisher process that fell through, and then we kept working on it. And then when it looked like there was a contract coming, you were a part of that. And so, it's been a long journey.
I did see the joy on your face, and also maybe a little bit of a relief at the launch event Tuesday night. Yeah. But also more than anything, just gratefulness, it felt like.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's what came through your words at the book launch event, was just gratefulness for what the Lord has brought you through.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And there was such a battle. Last episode we were talking about calling, sacrifice, joy, and there was a battle leading up to the launch. I feel like there was a lot of warfare, spiritual warfare going on. Our son went into the hospital with a blood clot in his lungs, a massive blood clot, Sunday before the launch. My husband was out of town and got stuck in a snowstorm coming home where he was going 15 miles an hour in his car, could hardly see because of the snow. And then all the flights, the government was shut down and there was like 1,500 flight cancellations and delays. And you're trying to get into town. My sister's trying to get into town. My niece is trying to get into town. All that is happening in the weekend before the launch. And on my end of things, I'm going through all the final details of the celebration, and I'm preparing my presentation. That's a hard thing for me. Like, to speak to big groups, it's a hard thing for me in the past, and I've had some really good experiences with it, and I've had some that I didn't feel like that went so good. And so I'm traveling to that point, and I'm feeling like I heard what God wanted me to share, and I have all the pieces, and I have everything written down in my notes, and I'm just barraged with doubts and fear and, feeling like I need to change that. Like, I'm just going to scrap the whole thing and I'm going to rewrite it, or I'm going to, somebody offered, like, I'll come up on stage, I'll just ask you questions so you don't have to really present. And then me just going back to, okay, hold on. Lord, you showed me this other way of doing this night. Like, I can see it in my mind, and it is me presenting. So I'm going to go forward with that. But when I got to the launch, oh my goodness, I got to the launch. Different people were on the team. I had different of my family members handling different things that they had expertise in. We have 6 kids and they have spouses and they're in their 30s now and are super talented. Like my son works in film production. So he's been working on my film and my photography end of things. My daughter-in-law was there and she has event experience and she's a graphic design artist. So she had created all the pieces visually for Journey with the Giant. My other daughter-in-law is a flower arranger. She was there doing her thing. I mean, you walked in the door and you just felt like we're stepping into Journey with the Giant when we come through here. So, there's this big battle to get to that point. But as we were driving to Baker Book House, which is about almost an hour from our house, with my husband and my sister, I could feel that heaviness and that weight starting to lift. And then we get to Baker Book House and there's a sign with it lights up with whatever event's going on, and you pull up and it says Journey with the Giant, author Lori G. Melton. Like I've been to a number of book launches, and I imagined ahead of time that one day it would say Journey with the Giant, and I would be standing underneath that sign. Unbelievable. Just so wonderful. So anyway, so then we get there, we get set up. Robert, you were there. Like when I saw you, the first time you came to our house to visit, you and Rebecca. And when I came downstairs in the driveway, and I'm just jumping up and down, like, you're here. It was just so fun after all the work. So then, being at the event and then people just start arriving, all these people. And we knew there was going to be a good number. We knew last we heard was like 60 people had signed up, and we were really glad about that. But then as they all started coming, they were people from my writing world. They were people from my husband's contacts and clients when I worked at the office. They were friends. They were church people. They were neighbors. They just were coming in this flood. My agent was there. My spiritual director was there. Sister Diane, who we interviewed, was there. And that's a really hard thing for her. So they all fill in to the audience, and there's a stage up front. And my daughter-in-law had created some beautiful slides to go up on the screen behind me. My husband introduced me. He was going to do that part. And he got up and he said some beautiful things. It was just right. And I'm standing. So we had Hymn of Heaven play, the song by Phil Wickham, because I've always felt like that is the theme song for Journey with the Giant. So before Brian introduced me, I'm standing at the back. A lot of my family is back there. The audience is in front of me facing the stage. I'm listening to that song, and every cell of my being feels the Lord's presence. Like I am just in another dimension with God in that moment. So anyway, Brian introduces me. I'm standing. I don't feel any fear anymore. Now all I feel is joy and God's presence. Like you are prepared for this. He is here. Wow. He is working. And so then Brian introduced me. I walk up the steps, and I just remember looking out at this group of people and seriously thinking, this is the cloud of witnesses. I see all these faces who are a part of my journey, this journey, the writing journey, launch team people. And I'm just like, this is the cloud of witnesses. This is so beautiful. And I was able to give my presentation. I felt complete power doing it.
You could just see something in your demeanor that was just like raw before the Lord, right? Just in his presence, basking in his glory, kind of. And it just felt like a moment of realization and a moment of God just meeting you there, fulfilling a dream that he planted in you a long time ago. And the realization of that in that moment, it feels like a threshold moment. Like you were standing up there in a way that just, you could tell, I could tell, Rebecca could tell. We talked about it after the event, that you were just in the presence of the Lord. Honestly.
Yes. And I could tell that the people, as I shared what the Lord gave me, I could tell people were being ministered to. It
Yeah.
wasn't just, me up there ecstatic that, oh, God did this author thing, but like he
Yeah.
was ministering to them through the story
Mhm.
of Journey with a Giant and becoming an author. Every person seemed like they were
Yeah.
receiving. And from the comments that I've gotten since then, I believe that's true. But the
Yeah.
behind the scenes story of what was going on with that, when you say it felt like a threshold, I wonder if it was a threshold in my own life because for years, probably 10 years ago, when God started bringing me to this new season of my life, He was putting me in leadership positions and calling me forward. And I was going forward scared like, is
Mhm.
this really me? Can I really do this? And in this book journey, I've mentioned before that when the contract came for the book, he gave me the story of Moses and the burning bush and how
Yeah.
God came to Moses, said, Moses, this is what I'm calling you to do. And and God had no doubt that Moses had the ability, but right away
Yeah.
in Moses' mind, he did not see himself the way God saw him, the way everyone else in his life had no doubt. Like, we don't doubt you, Moses.
Mhm.
Why do you doubt yourself?
Yeah.
This is what God's been doing in me the last 10 years to say the picture that I have in my own mind of who I am and my limitations or the things that I feel like are weaknesses or I'm not good at that. Oh, I'm not good at that. It's not true. It's lies. It's Romans 12, 1 and 2, how we present our bodies a living sacrifice and we ask him to renew our minds so that we can know his will and do it. And that's what God was doing through this podcast series, even through being interviewed on different things. I would have different interviews and I would get done with the interview and think like, oh my gosh, you sounded so uneducated or you didn't sound like you knew what you were talking about. And I would go back. The best thing I ever did was go back and listen and
Hmm.
hear that's not true. You
Yeah.
you had a lot of good things to say. You sounded strong. You were intelligent. You knew what you were talking about. But the enemy, the devil,
Hmm.
what does he try to do to us? He tries to
Yeah.
knock our legs out from under us and give us a picture of ourselves that is a lie so that we
Yeah.
don't do what God's called us to. And
Yeah.
so the other night, something in me felt like I get it now.
Mhm.
And I'm not
Mhm.
pushing for more opportunities. I'm not,
Yeah.
but I left there thinking I see myself a little differently and more accurately. And I'm so thankful. God, do in me what I can't do for myself, which is change
Mhm.
my picture. Change my picture, not for my glory, not for vanity, just so that I don't have to fight this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Mm-mm.
so good. Well, Lorian, is there a moment that surprised you the most?
I guess it would be what I would have pictured myself, how I would have pictured myself feeling as I was getting ready to walk on stage, and how I really did feel. That
Mhm.
moment was shocking, and so good. And then looking out, there was one moment when I was talking and I was trying to just not rush it. And I was saying whatever was on my papers. And I looked out into the audience, and there's a good friend of mine out there. There was a lot of good friends of mine out there, but I made eye contact with this one gal, and I could see her smile and nod. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, you are with me. You're all
Mhm.
with me in
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah. It was the connection. Yeah. There was a lot of connection there. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
everything you were talking about, there were so many connection points for people to just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, that's me, or I want that to be me,
Mm-hmm.
or I want to experience that also. And
Yeah.
so it's been really cool.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things about that night that I loved is that you did not even get to stage before people just started swamping you.
Yes.
And in fact, even before the night started, a few days before, or even the week before, you were like, okay, you're my timekeeper. I'm expecting you to tell me where I need to be and when and keep me on track and all this stuff. And so I think I remember at 5 till, there were people already lining up. We weren't even to the book signing yet. And people were
Mm-hmm.
lining up. They had kind of cornered you out of love, of
Mm-hmm.
course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there was already probably 10 or 12 people in line, and you'd already done 10 or 12 people at that point, as
Yeah.
far as signing books for them. And I just kind of, I felt bad because I kind of had to cut in and say, you got 5 minutes. Should I tell these
Yeah.
people there's an official signing coming up?
Yeah.
But yeah, I wondered, just um, in that moment, did that surprise you how people were just like gravitating, like, hey, I'm here, congratulations, all of this stuff?
Yeah, they were
What were you
so
feeling?
supportive. People were so supportive, so loving. I remember this one gal who's on our launch team. She came up with her book, and I signed her book, and I said, I got to hear God's given her a calling, and she's talked to me a little bit about it. And I said, hey,
Yeah.
I want to hear about yours. When can we set a date for your thing? And she was like, no, no, this is not about that. This is about
Mm,
you. This is about tonight. This is about this
mm.
book.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so I felt that from people.
Yeah.
I felt like they were coming and they knew how much of a dream and a love for this book that I had. And they were all there to celebrate that
Yeah.
together. They do
Yeah.
love the book, but they're
Yeah.
also loving seeing what God does in our life. And they loved
Yeah.
being there just to celebrate with me, which blows you
Yeah.
away. It just blows you
Yeah.
away when people do that.
For sure. Yeah, no, I got the same feeling from everybody. I mean, there were people that came up and met me. They were on a launch team, first time we had met in person, or because of the
Yeah.
podcast, they've seen the podcast or whatever. And so they come up to meet me. And so it was so great meeting those people. But it was
Hmm.
all about, wow, can you believe it's finally here? Lori's
Yeah.
book is launching. And so it was very honoring. Everybody was very honoring of you and your time and this
Hmm.
season, this moment in time on Tuesday night of
Yeah.
like, yeah, of just this culmination of a dream in many ways, but also it's just the start of a dream
Hmm.
in many ways. And
Hmm.
so of what
Hmm.
the Lord is going to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Lori, as we step into this next era, right? The podcast has been running for about 13, 14 weeks now. We had a launch team that joined. We had
Hmm.
35 friends, right, that
Mm.
joined the launch team and walked with us
Yes.
for about 8 weeks to help push
Hmm.
this book and market it and things like that. People who don't do this for a living, they were just doing it because they believe in the message. They love you. They love what you've done with it. They want to honor
Hmm.
what God wants to do with it. And so that was so great as well. That how quickly God brought that community together of people
Yeah.
that were just on
Hmm.
board to do what they could to help you get the message out.
Hmm.
Um, and
Hmm.
so you've talked so beautifully about how God works inside of us while He's working through us. What
Yeah.
did He do in you during this season?
Hmm. Hmm.
Your inner person, courage, trust. You've talked a little bit about it, even, but
Yeah. 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 He's definitely grown me in what he's called me to and what's next. And like I referred to about going up on stage and saying, you're prepared. I've talked about it
yeah,
before, how I'm glad that it took this long for the contract to actually come through and the book to get launched, because that gives us the time to develop as people and to get experience to when you get to that point where the book is launched and you're walking up on stage. There was a sense like, I'm ready. I'm ready because of all this preparation. And even in we had a Q&A time during the launch celebration. And when I got up there and they asked the questions, I was able to share. And that left me with a don't worry. Whatever's coming ahead of you, God's prepared you in all these ways to be able to talk about those things. And it was
yeah,
fun. I really had a
yeah,
good time with it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway,
That was
yeah.
great.
But anyway, Robert, before we get off this topic of what God has been working in us as he's been
Yeah,
working through us, I want to know, I want you to share, you got involved 2 or 3 years ago with Journey with the Giant. You put a
yeah,
lot of time into it. First of all, I just loved for you to share, like, why, what prompted you in the beginning? Maybe,
mhm,
the first time you were in a group and that was
yeah,
participation. But
yeah,
after that, to say, why am I going to pour all this time into it? What was stirring in you?
yeah. I think after being in that group the first time, and as I approached you about maybe leading a group of people through it that second year, people locally in my own church, it was just such a unique practice. But it also wasn't something that didn't make sense. It was so I mean, it's right there in the Bible, like you say, but we've just never heard it presented in the way that you present it. And also, you resource us, right? You resource us in ways that allow it to take on a life of its own, allow it to be a gentle journey. And so when I was in that first year with you in the group you invited me into, I knew it was such a unique practice that people could really get a lot out of it if they just were very intentional about it. If they if they had somebody, a guide to gently walk with them in their journey with their giant, whoever they chose. And that's what you did with us. And I did it even in a more gentle way, probably in a more hands-off way the second year when I led that group. And it was transformative for many of us that second year as well. And it was just as transformative, and we've said this in interviews, to hear other people's walk and what other people are gleaning from their walk with their giant, how it would impact me and how it would impact people. We saw many people over and over in that second group that I led, that somebody would say something and then somebody would ask questions and they would start being ministered to in what the other person was learning with their giant. And it's a powerful practice. It's honestly, I've been in a lot of small groups, and I don't want to degrade any small groups. There's a lot of great small group material out there. But when you're walking with somebody, walking with the giant of the faith for a year, and they're starting to impact the inner parts of you that help you become more like Jesus, then it's not just about learning something one week and talking about it at group that week. It's really about becoming something different and transforming, and then revealing that transformation to others in your group. And so I want to be sure and highlight that, because yes, we've said it many times, you can do this on your own. But transformation happens so much more when you're in a group of people doing this, whether it's 2 or 3 or how many ever, because then you're helping, the Lord is revealing this transformation that's taking place inside of you. And it's going to help bring transformation and even aha moments to other people's lives. And so I knew, and I think even that year, I think you and I had even talked about how I could help in the future and how I could be involved. And maybe we had an initial idea about this podcast at that moment. But I just knew it was something that I needed to be involved in, and I wanted to be involved in. And I felt like the Lord had given me gifts to help with this message, at least getting it out in the world. And you know, you just don't take lightly when God arranges divine relationships, when he brings divine friendships together. You don't push that to the side because you're too busy. You make room for it and you step into it. And we've said it many times. This podcast has been a lot more work than either one of us had thought it would be.
Yes.
But man, it's been so rewarding, and the people that we've met, the new friends that I've made. I mean, a lot of these people were already friends of yours. The new friends that I've made, my life is so much richer because of it. I mean, I think that's just God just honoring the commitment that I made to you and also to him, because he's the one that really asked me to step into this. I stepped into a season of saying yes to a lot of things, unless it was a clear no. But this was never anything I had to think about. It's something that the decision was made a long time ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, that I wanted to be involved in whatever way I could. And when we started talking earlier this year, hey, let's figure this out. What does this podcast look like? And let's start talking. And then the launch team. And it's just one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. And it's given me some great experience, yes, just from a personal point of view. But more than anything, it's just been a blessing.
How have you grown? Like when we talk about a threshold moment and ways that I've seen, I know what God has for me growing by just doing this experience, being obedient. Have you seen any areas like that where you?
I have, so I'm a helper. I've always been a helper. I come alongside people to help bring their vision to life in many ways. And that's just who I am. I serve, and it's who God created me to be. And so at times that can be distracting from stepping into where he's calling me to lead also. Like it has to be two distinct things. But I think one of the things he's taught me through this partnership with you is that what he's done inside of me is both leading and serving. There's many conversations where you and I have had where
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh, I haven't thought about that," or "Yes, that sounds great. I would have never thought about that." And you gave me permission to be that person in this
Mhm.
relationship to voice those opinions and throw those things out on the table, and not take offense if you were like, "Oh no, I don't feel like we need to do that," but just as a partner in helping you launch this. And so I think he's shown me that I'm not only a servant, right? I'm not only somebody who serves, but
Yeah.
I can also lead even within those roles that he's called me into to be of service to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And knowing that those two things are not, that they can be inclusive of each other.
Right. Yeah, I
And
think
so
that's
that's been
so
one
true.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that completely because you haven't been a helper in the way like, okay, I'm just here, Lori, what do you need done? I'll do it. But you have had that attitude, but you've also been one to show initiative and to say, I this is what I think would be good. Why don't we do
Yeah.
this here? I think we could do an episode like this, but totally up to you, Lori.
Yeah.
So there is a ton of leadership because we do automatically think of helpers as like they're the servants and the leaders are leading and they really don't have too much of a voice. But
Yeah.
maybe the beautiful thing about this, one of the beautiful things is your servant gift has also been a leadership gift.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really helped me recognize it. And God has also just been teaching me patience and perseverance.
Mm.
Like I left full time pastoral ministry in February, and I thought I was stepping into a season that was about my calling and my next steps. And here it is 9 months later, and I'm still probably at even more at a loss now of like, what does my next season hold? And at the same time, I think he's taught me so much about partnership,
Mm.
so much about leaning into other people's callings and
Mm-hmm.
partnering with them and knowing that in doing so, that is also a calling on my life. That is how he created
Mm-hmm.
me as a
Mm-hmm.
helper. But the Lord is blessed in so many ways and supplied for us in so many ways where I was able to come alongside you and a few other people and a few other projects and just serve them in the ways that God had equipped me to.
Mm-hmm.
And that the Lord has taken that then and what felt like me, honestly, what felt like him pushing pause on my dream and my calling
Mm-hmm.
really was just the next step to realizing the person I've been all along is who I need to be even in this next season.
Mm.
And that includes serving and leading.
Yeah.
And it just flows beautifully. And I really can't put into words all that that means because I'm still processing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like before we get too far into this episode, you probably should just share a word with our listeners,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you love for them to hear from you right now? To everyone listening, this is
Yes.
1 week after launch, but the book is out there. There's so many things that we would love to happen in people's
Mm-hmm.
lives, and
Mm-hmm.
if there's anything specifically you'd just like to say to the listeners.
Yeah. I just want to thank people for coming with us on this journey. I've been seeing people out and about, and they'll say, "Oh, I've just been
Yeah.
loving your podcast episodes. They're so good." And just that they're getting it, that they're opening
Mm.
themselves to this new way of growing closer to the Lord, and they're excited about it. And my word is just, that God always has more for us than we could ever ask or imagine, number one, and that He has so much to give us in the cloud of witnesses, in walking with the giant, and in walking with others. I hope that's what our podcast series will speak, and maybe even our partnership will
Yeah.
speak loudly.
Yeah. So we've talked about next steps a little bit and what that looks like. So maybe we just need to update people about the podcast and even your because Journey with the Giant is just a series within your Sanctuary Stirrings podcast,
Yeah.
except for on YouTube. And so yeah, let's update people on what's next.
Yeah, for Sanctuary Stirrings, I've got a whole list of topics that I'm ready to dive into and cover, and I've got people that I want to interview. I've even got a gal at my church right now. We're talking about a Journey with a Giant Bible study component where we're gonna have a Bible reading plan, and the Lord revealed to her an amazing way to study Scripture. So I'm chomping at the bit to have her on the podcast. So anyway, there will be new episodes. Nothing regular until 2026, but you may see a sporadic something pop up if I'm just like, oh my gosh, this opportunity is here. We're gonna go for it. So. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And then we'll see about next year.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It'll be fun to see what the Lord does.
Yeah.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us today. If you haven't picked up your copy of Journey with the Giant yet, you can find it at Lori's website, lorigmelton.com, and also through any of your favorite retailers. And if the book has encouraged you, leaving a review on Amazon really helps others discover it. And to end this episode, Lori would just like to say a few words and then end with prayer.
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us for the series, for picking up the book, for their comments, for emailing us, and all the different things, the ways you supported us. And we'll continue to dive into this practice. And I just wanted to say a quick prayer for our journey. So, Lord, first of all, God, we praise you for your faithfulness, for all that you have done, for what you're working inside of us, what you have been working through all these months, God, that I've shared with the listeners, what you've been doing in me, the goodness that has been revealed of you. Father, you have an individual plan for every person listening, and I just pray that you would continue to do your good work in them. And Father, lead them to the giants who will help them to know you better and more fully walk out the purposes that you have for them. Thank you for the strength and the anointing to do this podcast series, and for Robert and I partnership together. It's been amazing. Lord, you're so good, and we just want you to know, above anything, Lord, that we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, friends. Have a great week.